Hey folks, so today we have Mads here from Buchardt Audio. He's the mastermind behind the company. And so I'm starting a series where I'm interviewing some of the great minds in this industry just to, as an excuse, because, we're stuck inside right now, at least in Canada. So I thought I would reach out to these brilliant minds and just try to dig into what they have to say. So we have Mads here from Denmark right now. I believe, what time is it there right now?
Oh, right now it's what is it? 4:50. So
4:50. Okay, so it's
yeah,
like it's like 10:30 here. So
yeah, it's a
all
bit of
right,
time.
Mads. All right, Mads. So if you guys don't know, he's the mastermind behind the Buchardt S400, which has tremendous success, and also the Buchardt S300, which is a phenomenal speaker as well. Um, Today we're going to be
Thank you.
talking about some of the questions, personal questions from Mads, where he comes from, and stuff like that. And also we're going to talk about some of the speaker designs that he has designed. So, number one, how did you become an audiophile, Mads?
Well, I think basically I think I was born into it. My father was a piano tuner, and I just grew up around instruments all my life and started playing instruments. But when I became an audiophile for the first time, I think it was my parents. They had this large daily speakers, and I grew up around them. And I think it just slowly transitioned into being an audiophile after being a musician. And so yeah, it was a natural thing for me.
Awesome. Um, so how did you think of starting a speaker company? And I mean, it's one thing to be an audiophile, right? But then to
Yeah.
start a speaker company, I mean, what made you do that?
Well, it was maybe a coincidence, but we have to go back to when I grew up around instruments, and my father, so he was a piano tuner. He also had a shop where he sold instruments and all that stuff. And at a pretty young age, I think around 17, I started in that shop as well, and also learned a lot about instruments and sold instruments for many years. While that was happening, one of my best friends from school, he was getting into DIY, into speakers, starting building speakers, and he wanted to start a company where he actually sold DIY kits and speaker components, crossovers and drivers and all this stuff.
Right.
So we actually we started that company together back in 2008. Back then I was only 20 years old, so it was a pretty young age, and it slowly transitioned into we wanted to create a finished products or finished speakers instead of selling DIY kits and components. So that slowly transitioned into becoming Buchardt Audio in 2013. So,
2013.
yeah.
Hey, your English is pretty good. I was worried because in your email you were like, my English is not very good, so but your English is perfectly fine, man. So
Oh,
thank you.
glad to hear that. Thank you.
Number three, Buchardt S400 has seen tremendous success, like I mentioned, with many fans now. How did you come up with the design? I mean, it has a very interesting waveguide, and also it's a passive radiator design, allowing the cabinet to be much smaller than even
Yeah.
your S300, which was shocking to me before because I remember you sent me the S300 and the S400 arrived. And I heard the S300. I was so impressed. I ran down into my basement, the Q basement, and opened up
Yeah.
the S400. And I was like, this is a lot smaller than the S300, right? This is supposed to be a higher model. And I was quick to realize that that's because you had the passive radiator design, allowing the cabinet to be much smaller. Anyways,
Yeah.
enough me rambling. Why don't you take over and explain about how was the designing process of something like that?
Yeah, well, it's exactly a question we get a lot, and I have to remind a lot of customers that are emailing me that the S400, even though it's a larger number, is in fact a smaller speaker. But the idea behind the S400 was that to me, I think a speaker is a compact speaker is a very important thing, because a lot of these Scandinavian homes they're not suited for large speakers. And I wanted to make a design where you can get nearly a full range sound out of a pretty compact speaker. Get a lot of power in the low end and getting it to play almost like a floor stander. Not that it will replace a big floor stand, of course it wouldn't do that, but to create a speaker that would be satisfactory without the using of a subwoofer to it. So that was basically the start idea of it. But it should also be a speaker that will work great at poor placements in the room and work with a lot of different rooms, even rooms where you don't have much acoustic treatment. And that was the idea behind the waveguide, to have a speaker that controls the spreading pattern of how it acts, and also make the transition between the two drivers, the woofer and the tweeter, to be seamless, and to create a tweeter that has the same spreading pattern as the mid-range has. So that was basically it. Getting a speaker that can play both deep bass and with a lot of power in a small cabinet. There is no way around it. We needed that passive radiator. So that was basically the design, and it was an idea for me and also to the engineers, because I'm no speaker designer. I basically come up with the ideas and push the engineers to do the designs that I want to do and that I'm passionate about, and that is high performance compact speakers, so to speak.
Well, you mentioned, Mads, you mentioned that your speakers doesn't sound like floor standards, at least to North American standards. From what I've heard, and I've heard a lot of speakers, and your speakers sound more like a floor standard than some of these speakers out there. Just letting you know that. So you've accomplished something very big.
Thank you.
Now, I just wanted to ask you further. You make it sound so easy, Oh, well, this was the idea, so we did it. This was the idea, but you did it. But all those little things that you just mentioned, I'm sure. How long did it take for the S400 to develop?
Well, it was about 3 years, I think. It took a long time.
Yeah, so that's no easy. Let's just do it.
No.
So
the reason we could do it was at the time when we started the development of the S400, there was some brand new measurement techniques, actually a robot scanner that would become available from Klippel. And it allows us to do the science and put them up in this robot that will then do thousands of measurements around the speaker, so we can see exactly how it behaves. And we, of course, the waveguide was the big thing with that. It was what took so long time, because we had to do a lot of different prototypes. We can do a lot of in computer simulations to how it would act, but we needed to do measurements also to see how it exactly acts in the speaker. So that was one of the things that took a long time. Building the speaker and finding the right drivers and such that was the easy part. But the waveguide was really a tricky one, because you've seen a million different types of waveguides, but creating waveguides that really functions well all across the board is a very hard task to do.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah. And it was and I believe it was quite the investment as well. I mean, I believe the machine that you're just talking about is a very expensive machine, even just to get your test done. Let alone
the machine that we as a company personally bought. It is at a lab where we can use it from. So luckily I didn't have to invest in that machine.
Oh, okay, that's good. So there's some insight to how he did the S400 and folks. And so next question is, what was the first speaker you ever heard? Just the first speaker you ever heard and thought, wow, this is what is a speaker is supposed to be, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, it was my parents' big Dali speakers.
Okay.
And I think it was the start 90s. I believe it was, and I actually inherited those speakers, and I listened to them for a big chunk of my life. So those were the first that impacted me. Of course, I probably heard all the speakers, but I was a small kid when I started listening to those.
Dali is also in Denmark, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that is.
so that makes a lot of sense.
It was huge speakers. I think they got it was a large floor stand. It was 2.8s and
Mhm.
the famous ribbon and dome tweeter combo they had, and I think a mid range of some sort also.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
big
yeah.
compared to
Well,
what we do.
vintage speakers are very very big. I mean, I had some
Yeah,
JBL speakers here that were just way too big. So, totally get that. Um, Here, what are some of the amplifiers? And I think this is a burning question from a lot of your fans as well. What are
yeah.
some of the amplifiers you have heard with your speakers, and which ones really stood out to you? Which ones did you think that not to really leave anyone out, but like you heard an amplifier with your speakers and you thought, wow, that's a great match. I want to have that in my room, for example. What were
Yeah.
some of those amplifiers? You can have more than one.
Yeah, well, there is a lot because I think that they do sound great with a lot of different amplifiers, and
Yeah.
it's also a question of what do you like as a taste because it's it can do a lot with the sound profiles of the speakers,
Hmm.
depending on what amplifier you pair it up with. But the best one is of course the one that we are releasing soon. but I always had a particular love to Atoll amplifiers, which is actually a French company
Atoll.
that makes
Yes.
yeah Atoll, yeah, you know them as well. I have
Yeah.
seen that you have
Yeah.
reviewed
Hmm.
one of the amplifiers. I think they make great value. And they just they have the power needed to drive the speakers. So those are some of the amplifiers that I often recommend for my customers. And also, there's a Swedish company called Holographic Audio. It's
Hmm.
not very well known, but those are extremely good amplifiers as well. A bit more expensive. And then Primer, which is Swedish, close neighbor to us. They also make some great electronics and also very nice looking. So for aesthetics wise, I think they match very well with our speakers. And Hegel is also a great one
Yeah, I
to.
was just gonna ask you about that. In my comment section after I finished reviewing the Buchardt S400, a lot of people were asking me, "Oh, I know you're a huge fan of Hegel because I like Hegel." And people were asking me, "How does it pair uh, the Hegel, the
Yeah,
S300 400 with the Hegel?" And to me, like I mentioned in my Hegel review, I quite liked it. I think it was
yeah.
great control in the bass and such. Um, do you have any experience with some of the Hegel units? What were some of the units that you heard with that impressed you, or didn't impress you, whatever it is?
Yeah, well, I used on shows. I think two shows. I used the H160.
Mm,
That was a great match. Some might say that because we have a pretty neutral tuning to our speakers, and many find them to be pretty warm at the top end. Then Hegel is also well known for being a bit warm also in the top end.
yes.
Some don't like that synergy. Some
Mm.
really prefer Marantz actually to our speakers. So yeah, now you can probably see the cleaning lady in the background. Sorry for that.
No problem. Cleaning is
But
very important, especially
that
where
is
you're working. You see
yeah,
my space right now.
and no dust, no dust.
Someone's gotta beat me, with a bat to clean this place, and it's not
Yeah,
happening. So
okay.
props on
You
you.
know, electronics are very prone to dust. But yeah, we have that every Tuesday. So
Awesome. I think that really answered it. Oh, and another thing about the amplifiers. Now, I get this question a lot, and I think I mentioned it even in my review. But what is the, for the lack of better words, power recommendation? A lot of
um,
people are like, I know there's, I keep telling people there's current and then there's, wattage.
yeah,
But a lot of people are, asking me, oh, I have a 100 watt this amplifier, I have a 200 watt this amplifier. Will it drive the Buchardt S400? And in fact, will it sound good with it? What is the, what in your mind, what is like a minimum that people should go for with your speakers?
there's that is an extremely hard question because,
Yeah,
as you know, what is something, and it again completely depends on the individual.
exactly.
If you don't often play very loud, then you of course don't need 200 watts of amplification. I have used as low as 5 watts tube amplifier on a show with the S400, and it sounded great. But of course, we couldn't play that loud. But so it's very hard. But I think to get the full potential out of the S400, especially, they are pretty power hungry. Then I usually recommend about 100 to 120 watts in forums. They can easily take more, and they like more power. And I always say just get as much as possible within your budget, without getting a PA amplifier or something like that. But still getting something that
Oh
that's
yeah,
of
and
quality.
just a little spoiler because this is such a amazing and opportunity to be here with you. I have a 400-watt amplifier, monoblock amplifier in here for review. The first thing I did was hook up the Buchardt S400 because that somehow became my reference point at this point because I've had that speaker for God knows how long, so I'm hearing with many different things. So I set the monoblocks up, and this thing has 400 watts per channel. I believe and it doubles to 800 watts in 4 ohms, I
Yeah,
think. So
that's a
it's
power.
crazy. I'm not gonna say which amplifier, but that came up, and so I hooked it up, and my God, that was tremendous. Lots of
Yeah.
headroom, really powerful. So yeah, I definitely agree with the fact that more power, is better for your
Yeah, it is
S400.
funny
Yeah,
because you would think you would never use that much power, and you
yeah.
don't really. But it's same feedback I get from all the customers that's saying, "Hey, I just tried this extremely powerful amplifier, and it just sounded so amazing."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, and I love that about the S400. It scales so well. Every component I throw at it, it scales very well. If it's
Yeah.
higher end, better made components, then you're gonna get that out of the S400. So yeah, for sure. Let's see here. Uh, um, what are some of the speakers that you heard over the years that inspired you? So, a lot of us in the speaker industry, especially when it comes to designers or, speaker startup companies,
Mm.
this is a question that I asked them because, over the years, some of them seen old JBL speakers, Altec, or they were fans of James Lansing. They had these kind of experiences that inspire them to build the speakers that they're building now. So what are some of the you know speakers out there that you saw at the shows or whatever and thought, wow, that's really inspiring, that's something I want to go towards?
Yeah. Well, it's actually something that I think most people won't know what is because it's a mixture of a DIY setup with something called Halsey Audio, which is a brand that is also Danish, but it doesn't exist anymore. But I heard this the stereo. It was at one of my friend's house. It's completely an insane setup. It runs completely on battery, and it was everything was soldered together. There was no terminals or anything. It was really weird,
Jeez.
completely insane. Yeah, but it sounded so incredible real. I haven't heard that from anything else. Never. I never heard anything that just came remotely close to how that sounded. It sounded so neutral, and it was more true to life than watching something on television. You know what I mean? There was a drum kit. You felt that you can get up and walk around the drums inside the sound stage. It was so incredible lively. Yeah, that was like a really a wow moment for me when I heard that.
But
And
what was the brand again?
Halsey.
Halfie. Okay,
Yeah.
don't worry, people will Google.
Yeah.
I can just imagine a person right now opening up a new tab, typing away Halfie.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it was based on a Halsey setup, but it was completely modified by
I
by
see.
that guy.
Yeah.
Um, it was so so bizarre. But yeah, that was
Awesome.
the
Let's see. What was the goal in creating the I guess you already answered that in the previous question. Well, I guess the question was, did you expect it to be so successful amongst the audiophiles, the Buchardt S400?
No, I actually I never expected to be that successful. I
Okay.
always hoped it would be that big, but keep in mind I since I started the first company with my good friend Casper back in 2008, up until last year was the first time I made some money that I could take out and pay myself salary on. All those years I have always I've spent all the money to build the company bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And so getting that breakthrough, sort of say, with the S400 was really it was surprising, but it was everything that I ever hoped for. So and that just gave us the capital now to really do a lot of interesting things. And so yeah, we have a lot of interesting products in the pipeline. So I can't
Yeah.
wait to share that with everybody.
Yeah. Awesome. The S400. I'm just curious, how many, including the special edition versions, um, I guess, around the ballpark, how many do you think you've sold in the time you started to now? Yeah,
Yeah.
just around the
Okay.
ballpark, approximate.
Approximately, I think it will be around 3,000 pairs, and
Wow.
that is a lot for a small company. That was a one-man show up until recently when I hired some more employees. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's for sure. I was talking with Dan D'Agostino, who is the founder of Krell and now the Dan D'Agostino Master System, and he when he first started, he was sold 60 or something like that pairs of his amplifiers, and he was banging himself on the head, going like, "How am I gonna build 60 amplifiers? I'm a one man show."
yeah,
So
yeah,
for 3,000 pairs in that kind of span of time is a
yeah,
tremendous success for sure.
yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah. Thank
Let's see here. What are your plans with Buchardt Audio going forward? What are some of the things that you want to achieve? What are some of the products like you mentioned that you want to come up with? That's I think you're going a little bit more powered bookshelf kind of
yeah,
style.
yeah.
Why don't you talk about that? What's the idea behind it? What do you want to do with the
Yeah.
company?
Well, some of the things that I would like to expand on that same thought that gave us the S400 with making something that works very well in normal living environments and under all these different type of placement and horrible rooms that most people actually do have. We're not as lucky having acoustic material, although plastered all over the room like you have. But and to take that a step further, we needed to go active powered speakers, which included very advanced DSP controlling, so that we can build in room correction within the speakers and having them. So yeah, to actually extend much further down in the bass region again to create something that will be very useful without a subwoofer. And so powered was the next big step, and we are very soon ready with the A500, which is almost a powered version of the S400, but still it's configured completely different, as a used seal cabinet and is a 2.5-way construction. And then we also would release, I think, probably our pre-order campaign within a month, the A700, which is a powered version of it's our first floor standard, and we have a lot of people waiting for that one, which will going to be still a pretty compact floor standard, but extremely powerful. And also with the including of our upcoming integrated amplifier, which actually also has this powerful DSP, so it can make a lot of the magic that we do on the active, also apply that on our passive speakers as well. So yeah, I'm very excited to that. And then we are just working on a lot of new designs as well to see what would be the next big step past that. But
Yeah,
it's always
you just mentioned the floor standard version of the S400, correct?
the floor stand version of the A500.
Oh,
They are
A500. Okay.
yeah. But we're also working on passive floor standards. But we can make them much better when we're doing them in active. So that's the first one we'll be
Right.
releasing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it for this interview. Is there anything that you want to add to this interview? Is there anything that you might want to tell the world out there?
Yeah. Well, first of all, stay safe in these pandemic times.
Yes.
That
Yes.
will be the first one. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But otherwise, I would also like to thank, of course, all the people that have supported me and Buchardt Audio throughout all the years. We couldn't have done what we have done without them, and also we couldn't have done anything without reviewers like you, Jay. So thank you very much for doing what you're doing.
Not a
Please
problem.
work.
What I do, and what Zero Fidelity does, what Thomas does, what any of these reviewers do, to tell you the truth, if the product is not good, we can't support you. So,
Oh,
um, thank you for making such a great product. As an audiophile, really, I think the S400 took us to a different, really pushed the boundary of the art of speakers, and I think it's such a great speaker that I'm just keep on waiting for your floor standards because that's what I want. That's
we'll
what I
make
want to hear.
you a panel when we have them ready.
For sure. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for this interview. I know you're a busy guy. And I hope you keep safe, Mads, and I'll see you in the next time, okay? Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.